very quickly. But I think one of the overriding qualities of Jamaican students is that we're family oriented. The parents have vested them with strong moral values. And so they tend to be the mothers and the fathers sometimes to kids who are quite lost over there, and counselors there have reported that to me. So that it balances out, so we're okay.
How can students deal with these issues?
There are tons of books on the market now. As a matter of fact, we just formed an alliance with Princeton Review. They've asked me to write 2 books on recruiting international students and placement of international students in overseas institutions. And there's a chapter on that, but I have found that there are tons of books out there on the market that they can read before leaving, in terms of dealing with the weather, in terms of dealing with the culture clashes. It's not that difficult to source, really. They're actually now, I think, in my reading tome on placing students overseas, there are currently now 2,500 books on the market that just deal with that. And every time I go to the national conferences for counselors, there's a new book every session. So there is no lack of reading material on cultural clashes and cultural infringements for international students and how to adapt in a new cultural environment. And I'm actually quite glad about this Chinese trade fair, because I've now been placed as the overseer in the overseas counselors admission with the Asian contingent. So I'm the sole Jamaican woman working with the Koreans and the Chinese and the Japanese as consultants. So that's really intriguing. I've learned Japanese, but now I guess I have to go learn Chinese and Korean to adapt with my new group. But we're a tight force, one to be reckoned with, and they have one of the largest markets. And we have now forged a partnership with China. And there's a Jamaican in Sri Lanka who I have brought into the fold. She is married to Dr. Jaya Singh, and she has started an extension of Versan in Sri Lanka. And China has now opened a partnership with us to have my expertise in helping their kids do that trade route to America for boarding schools and colleges. So it's panning out nicely with all these new memberships.
Financing is also a problem for many. What type of financing is available for international students?
We were very lucky. President Bill Clinton left a nice package for us before he left his presidency. And what they've done with loans now in America for international students is I can source a friend or relative in the States who has excellent credit, and they can co-sign a loan with a Jamaican student. Once that loan is approved, it's sent directly to the school. And so the Jamaican student simply has to show the US Embassy the approval letter. So there's no need for the bank statement anymore and all of that stuff. And what we have discovered is the monthly rates on these loans of, say, $15,000, $20,000 is $16 a month. The Jamaican student can earn that while in college and pay it back. So it's worked out ideally for students who couldn't find the wherewithal to go. Then, of course, you have to think about those who get these major grants from schools. One in which we had a young lady last year whose the tuition was $42,000 and her grant was $41,000. So the parents only had to find $1,000 US for her to go. And there are a plethora of those coming in, as well as those who earn the 50% scholarships, the 75% scholarships. There are the private foundations now that I'm moving more into. That is, for this year, we have sourced, I think, with the new ECOS plan with Princeton Review, students enrolled with us are now tracked, and they now have a straight in to 900,000 scholarships offered. So no longer do I have to go through these scholarship books and find individual packages for my students. They can now tap in and source them themselves, and we will help them apply and do their essays and sending all the requisite materials. So financing is becoming easier, it's more doable. I think the only obstacle is finding that person who can co-sign a loan for you. But my take on it to a student, be fully prepared for this process so you can reap the benefits. They want international students. They want that multicultural, diverse student population. So play right into that and source some of that money. Because I do not recommend schools that do not give aid. I'm always going after the ones that said, oh yes, we have an endowment here, and so we can afford 15 or 10 international students this year, so we're going to flow right into that source. And of course, accredited schools. That's the key thing, accredited schools.
That concludes another edition of Pennywise. I hope you picked up some useful tips about applying to college overseas. Remember, if you're even considering school abroad, you should contact the Versan Educational Institute. They are located at the American International School in Kingston, or you may email them at versanedu3@jamweb.net. Till next time, I am Aisha for Pennywise.
These three young women are close friends. They attend the same high school, they share common goals, and are among that growing band of women who view their education as a blue-chip investment. Find out more about them in our motivational feature, The Achievers. They are young women attending the same school with similar interests, a great friendship, successfully obtaining scholarships to the same American institution. Well, my odds maker friend tells me the odds are in excess of 1,000 to 1. This week we feature 16-year-olds Deandra Wright, Sharida Vassell, and Lacey Ann Miller, three best friends and recent graduates of the St. Andrew High School, who all received full scholarships to attend the Master's School in New York. The scholarship allows them to complete both 11th and 12th grade at the institution. Their full scholarships are valued over $37,000 each. We caught up with them in Port Morrison, Catherine, early last week. For many 16-year-old students, after graduating from 5th form, going to 6th form is their next goal. However, for these three determined students, that was not an option. Fortunately, they were introduced to this scholarship program.
I had told my parents that I did not want to go to 6th form, so I didn't really know whether I was going to go to 6th form or not, but my mommy has this friend that always asks what I'm doing at school, how I'm doing, and she was telling her that I'm complaining that I don't want to go to 6th form, and she told her that she heard of this program that kind of introduces you to a scholarship program so that you could go away to school. So she went and found out the information and gave it to my mother, and in turn I told my friends and they told their mothers, and yeah, that we went to the program, did the interviews, did the classes, took the exams, and then the interview time came and went for the interviews, and then this one school just stood out to us and we applied. Although we didn't apply to that one school, we applied to a lot of schools, but when we all got accepted, this one it was just amazing.
These scholarships offered by the Master's School were certainly not limited to their performance in high school. The school also assessed applicants based on their needs. This played a great part in their choices. But what exactly was the procedure for acquiring the scholarships?
First, you had to go to classes with Versan. They prepared you for the SAT, and then when you took the exams, we went to interviews afterwards. And basically, the interviewers knew what they wanted, and they had a criteria. And if you were you didn't even have to do so well academically, perhaps, but if you did very well in the interviews, and if they saw something in you, then they knew that you were going to be the one to come to their schools, and that's how they chose. But you have to, academically, I think, you have to have that balance.
They enrolled at Versan Educational Services, where they completed courses that prepared them for the SSAT.
At Versan, they taught us first of all, how to work speedily, how to be on time, because in the exams you don't have a lot of time and there's a lot of questions and you can't answer all the questions. They taught us how to write essays briefly, because there still isn't a lot of time. And they prepared us for interviews, told us how we're supposed to be dressed and how we're supposed to say it and speak. That's basically.
They all praised Versan's principal, Mrs. Sandra Bramwell Riley, for the part she played in their achievements.
Yes, she did. She was always there. We could call her and ask her about